Good evening. I would like to call to order this Anoka-Hennepin School Board meeting for today, January 27th, 2025. Please join the board in pledging our allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Our first order of business is to approve the board agenda. Is there a motion to approve the board agenda as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Co-Chair Arco. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Langenfeld. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor of approving the board agenda, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say no. With 4 in favor and 0 opposed, the agenda is approved. Members, our next order of business is item 4, recognitions, and our kindness poster winners from across the district. We would welcome Becky Brodier, Associate Superintendent, Tom Shaw, Director of Student Services, and Britt Oline, District Social Worker. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, co-chairs Arco and DeShane, board members, Superintendent McIntyre. We are honored to share with you recognitions for the Anoka-Hennepin Kindness Poster Contest winners tonight. Over 3 decades ago, the Anoka-Hennepin School Board thoughtfully adopted a set of core values: respect, responsibility, appreciation of diversity, integrity, and compassion, and they serve as the foundation of our district's culture. As you will witness today, these values are beautifully reflected in the artwork created by our talented students. Our theme, Kindness Takes All of Us, perfectly encapsulates the spirit of these values. I am deeply honored to serve a district that prioritizes kindness and strives to embody these core values in our daily lives. Tom Shaw, Director of Student Services, and Britt Oline, District Social Worker, will share more about the contest and our winners.
Good evening, board members and Superintendent McIntyre. Tonight I'm joined by Britt Oline, District School Social Worker, in recognizing the talent and the wonderful creativity of our 24-25 Kindness Poster Contest winners. This is the 21st year that the Anoka-Hennepin School District has hosted the Kindness Poster Contest. Each year, the contest encourages students into kindergarten through 12th grade in a positive call to action to counteract the negative impact of bullying and to highlight Anoka-Hennepin's core values, as was said earlier: respect, responsibility, appreciation of diversity, integrity, and the compassion as the basis of kindness.
Along with our district's theme, The Power of Purpose, and this year's Back to School theme, It Takes All of Us, this year's theme for our Kindness Poster Contest, Kindness Takes All of Us, was a perfect choice. Just as every staff member, student, parent, and community member contributes to preparing our students to cross the stage at graduation, every staff member, student, parent, and community member contributes to the positive climate of our schools through kindness. Kindness can help people feel more connected to others, increase happiness, and help prevent bullying. Kindness can also be contagious. When people receive kindness, they are more likely to be kind to others in return. Let's take a look at this video highlighting the project this year. I'm Britt Oline, School Social Worker at Anoka-Hennepin Schools, and I'm excited to recognize the winners of this year's annual Kindness Poster Contest. Congratulations, and thank you to all of our participants. In Anoka-Hennepin, we believe kindness takes all of us. Our students and staff model kindness in their school communities each day. When we asked our students to illustrate their vision of kindness, they brought this year's theme of Kindness Takes All of Us to life. We received nearly 170 entries for this year's 21st Annual Poster Contest. Thank you to our participants for creatively demonstrating how kindness takes all of us. Congratulations to this year's winners. Lillian Raschke, Kindergarten, Sunrise Elementary. Gabe Zuck, 1st grade, McKinley Elementary. Ollie Miller, 2nd grade, Sunrise Elementary. Mavis Yang, 3rd grade, McKinley Elementary. Addison Bartley, 4th grade, Dayton Elementary. Sabrine Zanu, 5th grade, Sunrise Elementary. Madeline Parrott, 6th grade, Anoka Middle School for the Arts. Ada Hammond, 7th grade, Northdale Middle School. Fatima Muhammad, 8th grade, Northdale Middle School. Katie Tron, 9th grade, Andover High School.
Well, I just thought about how it really does take all of us to make the world a better, kinder place. And I just wanted to inspire others.
I did a bunch of different parts of my poster. And one of them was somebody buying groceries for someone. One of them was somebody showing sportsmanship. One of them was planting trees and recycling. It shows there are lots of different ways to be kind.
Kindness really takes over a person. It shows the kind of person you really are. I illustrated all of these kids going up to a kid in a wheelchair and asking him to play because I really think that no matter who you are, I think every kid should be included. My favorite part of the poster was making the faces because it shows all around the world. My favorite part of my poster is my handprints.
Can you show us your hands again?
Congratulations once again to all of our Kindness Poster Contest winners, and a special thank you to Horace Mann for providing Kindle tablets to the winners. Kindness takes all of us, and together we can make our schools a welcoming place to learn. Thank you to our staff and students for continuing to spread kindness in our schools. Each winner will receive a Kindle from the Horace Mann Company, and their artwork will be reproduced and displayed across the district. We are thankful to Dave and Tom from the Horace Mann Company for their continued partnership in our annual Kindness Poster Contest. We believe the benefits of kindness, and when we all take part in being kind, we ensure our schools are safe and welcoming. Thank you, board members and Superintendent McIntyre, for your support and recognition of our amazing student artists. Thank you so much for your time. I will call students' names and they may come forward, and school board members are invited to join us as we recognize our winners. I'll have Dave and Tom come up right here. So students, you'll get a medal right here, and then your prize, and then you can come line up here in a row and we'll take some pictures. Sound good? Okay. Lillian Raschke, Kindergarten, Sunrise Elementary. Gabe Zook, 1st grade, McKinley Elementary. Ollie Miller, 2nd grade, Sunrise Elementary. Mavis Yang, 3rd grade, McKinley Elementary. Addison Bartley, 4th grade, Dayton Elementary. Sabrine Zanu, 5th grade, Sunrise Elementary. Madeline Parrott, 6th grade, Anoka Middle School for the Arts. Ada Hammond, 7th grade, Northdale Middle School. Fatima Muhammad, 8th grade, Northdale Middle School. And Katie Tron, 9th grade, Andover High School.
Okay, we'll just have everyone look up here.
Heather, would you like?
Yeah, I think if you're right here and then kind of along the sides, that would work out good. Gonna find a window there. Here, other side, everyone. I think you didn't know? Nope, I didn't. I'm just snapping a lot for insurance. Okay. Any family wants to come up and take a photo, they're welcome to. Yeah, families come up.
Thank you so much. Appreciate every year. Thank you so much.
All right. All right, members, the next item on our agenda is item 5, the consent agenda. As normal, members can remove items for separate consideration and discussion if that's their desire. Otherwise, is there a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
So moved. Oh,
Thank you. Is there a second?
second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. With 4 in favor and 0 opposed, the consent agenda is approved. Our next agenda item is item 6, communications, delegations, and petitions. This is time for community members to provide input directly to the school board about issues that fall within the school board's authority. We plan this agenda item for 15 minutes, and our policy allows for members to speak for up to 5 minutes, but if there are several people who want to speak, we will reduce that a bit to keep our meeting on schedule. We have 4 cards, so let's do 4 minutes each, and if you'll help me keep a timer as our speakers are coming up. I will ask Co-Chair Arco to monitor the timer. If anyone else wants to complete a yellow card, please do so at this time and hand it to Ms. Kofsky so we can get you into the list. A couple of procedural reminders. Our meeting participation procedures are in place to assure an open and orderly public comment section, as well as to protect the due process and privacy rights of individuals under the law. If speakers use specific names of staff, students, or board members, I'll need to interrupt and stop the speaker. Please remember to direct your comments to the school board co-chairs. And members of the audience, please listen respectfully. If the board cannot hear our speakers, we'll have to reset the timer to make sure that they can be heard. And audience members that disrupt this portion of the meeting may be asked to leave. With that said, we will begin. Our first speaker is Lori Schultzel. Hi, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Lori Schutzley, and I'm a resident of the school district and a retired staff member. I am here tonight to talk about the closure of the Child and Parent Education Center, or CAPE Center. The Cape Center offers childcare for infants and toddlers of student parents in middle school, high school, and the 18 to 21-year-old special education program, allowing student parents to continue their education. The center has been open for 35 years and has worked with over 700 plus infants and toddlers. In a reply letter to me from Dr. McIntyre in November, he spoke about the Teen Pregnancy and Parenting Program, called TPP, and the Cape Center as if they were interchangeable programs, and stated that the changes for next year were related to space needs for other district programs and the level of support needed to maintain current program and providing direct district-funded daycare or transportation for children. While these programs have worked together, it is possible for the student parents to receive their education in one of several schools in the district, but there is only one child care program and is funded from a very different source. Cape Center brings in money from the Anoka and Hennepin County Child Care Assistance Programs as well as Head Start, and has been self-sufficient for many years except for the cost of transportation for student parents and their child. We understand that transportation is costly, but many of the student parents fall under the definition of McKinney-Vento students, which receive special funding for transportation. There is also grant money available for transportation costs for student parents, which our district has not always fully utilized. The Anoka Child Care Assistance staff are concerned about what will happen to the students who use the Cape Center. Concerns include the difficulty of finding alternative daycare, the complexity of the county assistance application process, and the inadequacy of family member care options due to stringent requirements and low compensation. Infant childcare in Anoka and Hennepin County is extremely difficult to find within our school district boundaries. It has also been mentioned that a student parent can have a family member take care of a child and still get county assistance. While this is true in Minnesota, the guidelines state that the family member cannot live with the child they care for. So the student will still need to get their baby to that location and then get themselves to school on time. Also, the family member that's taking care of the child will need to pass a background check as well as all other adults who live in that home. They will need to pass a health inspection. The person that's in charge of the child will also need to follow all of the county guidelines for a child care provider and stay current in continuing education. They will need to meet all of these requirements so they get paid $100 a week to take care of that child. Many family members will find the process too intrusive for such a small payment, or will not be available to take care of a child as they need to work a job that will pay more money per week. The Cape Center receives $615 per week per child. No matter how they find childcare, these students will need to get their child to the provider each morning and then get themselves to school on time to continue their education.
You're just about at time.
I implore you to visit the Cape Center, speak to the director of the center, and discuss if this decision is in the best interest of student parents and their children. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Carolyn Behan.
Good job. It's usually not pronounced correctly.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the school board, Superintendent McIntyre. I am also speaking with regard to the proposed closure of the Cape Center. And I find it really interesting that the theme for the year is kindness and how it takes all of us. And it takes all of us, especially when we're talking about a small portion of students within our district. The last 4 years alone, there have been less than 19 seniors within our CAPE program. Prior to the CAPE program being available, more than 50% of these girls, these teen parents, dropped out of school as soon as their babies were born because they didn't have daycare. And so it's been a success story. With the last year alone, we had 19 seniors, 13 of them graduated, 3 returned as super seniors, 3 did drop out, but they were likely to return to Two Rivers. With regard to transportation, funding is available, and I don't think that it is a budget breaker when you're looking at 19 students to bring them, to make it available for them to get up in the morning, get their kids ready, bring them to a quality daycare where they're going to receive the attention and the education that they need in order to bring them back to our school district as proposed students and then go on to their classroom work. So again, I implore you to look at this again. It's not a huge budget breaker. We're receiving money from Anoka County, Hennepin County, and transportation grants are available for the McKinney-Vento students. So thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Mark Duffy. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, board members and Superintendent McIntyre. My name is Mark Duffy. I am here tonight as a constituent, a social studies teacher, and a social studies department leader. I am also here on behalf of all the social studies department leaders in the district at all of our high schools and middle schools. I am here to ask for the impasse over the new social studies curriculum to be resolved. In less than 2 years, we will be teaching the new Minnesota State social studies standards. We will be doing this not because we want to subvert your authority, but because we are required by law to do that. No matter what your personal opinion is on these new standards, we will have to teach them, period. We were in the process of preparing our departments to do exactly that when we were told to stop. We were in the process of choosing new texts and building curriculum around those new standards when we were told to stop. Now, we have many social studies teachers in this district who have no idea what we will be doing in less than 2 years when we have no choice but to teach the new standards. Many of you work in the private sector. If you are given a task that you know will require lots of preparation, you appreciate lots of time to get things ready. We teachers are much the same. We are professionals who take the job of teaching our students very seriously. The current impasse is filling our jobs with uncertainty and frustration. We feel our needs are being ignored by the very people who are in charge of this district. I've heard many excuses why this is the case, but very little in the way of attempts to solve this issue. One of the things I have heard is that costs are a concern. Costs? Really? Over the last 2 years, this district has paid educators to create curriculum, which we are now being told to ignore and not use. If costs were really a concern, you would think that the district would do a better job using the resources we have already created instead of telling us not to use them. Additionally, the money for our new textbooks was allocated years ago and will therefore have no immediate impact on our current financial status. So I have a hard time believing that costs are a concern. Many teachers in this district are frustrated by the uncertainty surrounding this issue. The many teachers who have worked hard to create a new and dynamic curriculum for our students are feeling insulted that their hard work is being ignored. We respect that you have the authority over the priorities of the district, and that your concerns for your communities help inform the decisions that you make here. But remember, you are also in charge of the work we do every day to educate the students in each and every one of our schools. The work you do in this chamber has an impact on the work we do every day. One of the most important things I stress to every person above me whose decisions impact my curriculum, my classroom, is that our workplace is our students' learning space. When teachers are frustrated and uncertain, that works its way into our classrooms, no matter how hard we try. Do you want the best learning environment for our students or not? Trust us to be the professionals we are and allow us to do our jobs to the best of our ability. The message we are getting from you right now is that you do not. Do better. The students of this district are depending on you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Emily McCullough. Hi, welcome.
Hey, thank you. Can you hear me? Okay. Good evening, members of the board, administration, and community members. My name is Emily McCollar, and I'm here tonight not just as a student, but as an advocate for the quality of education in our district. As you deliberate on the difficult decisions surrounding the budget deficit, I urge you to prioritize the most critical element of any school district, our students. The proposed cuts to elementary staffing are particularly troubling. Cuts to instructional coaches, math and literacy interventions, and enrichment programs disproportionately harm students who rely on additional support. Yes, this may balance the budget short term, but at what cost? Large class sizes and reduced resources create inequities, worsening the achievement gap and perpetuating socioeconomic divides in our school. While this may save money today, it risks creating a ripple effect that will follow students throughout their educational journey, leading to greater academic challenges in middle and high school and an increased need for support later. Our district is currently advertising specialized programs for the 2025-26 school year. However, that will affect enrollment numbers with families considering the benefits of these programs. However, by promoting these programs while cutting the very positions required for their success, we are engaging in false advertising and setting unrealistic standards. Families are being drawn towards our district under the promise of opportunities and programs that may no longer be sustainable if these cuts proceed. This undermines the trust of our community and risks damaging our district's reputation. And this isn't just about educators in the classroom. Positions like the curriculum integration coordinator and other behind-the-scenes roles often go unnoticed but are vital to the success of all of our students. These professionals shape the learning environment and designing curricula that reflects equity, diversity, and yet still challenges our students academically. They ensure that all students, regardless of background, have access to the resources and instructions they need to thrive. Cutting these roles doesn't just affect one school or one classroom. It impacts every student in our district. Their absence will leave a void in our educational system. As elected officials, you are entrusted with the responsibility of protecting and shaping the future of our students' education. This responsibility requires putting our students first, above political ideologies, external pressures, and even the challenges above budget deficit. I ask you to take the time to understand the positions you're cutting. Get to know the people behind the statistics. Ask yourself what they contribute to our schools and our students. If you truly do this, I believe you'll see that cutting roles essential to student growth and equity will have consequences far beyond any budget report can show. Instead, I encourage you to consider the cuts that have the least direct impact on students and classrooms. Look deeper into areas like central services and operational adjustments. Yes, these decisions are difficult, but they are necessary if we are to preserve the integrity of our educational system and ensure that every student has the access to the opportunities they deserve. These choices you make now will shape the future of our schools and our community. Please, don't let short-term solutions lead to long-term consequences. Let us work together as a community to find solutions that balance the fiscal responsibility with the educational needs of our students. Thank you.
All right, board members, our next agenda item is 7, board calendar and district update. I'll turn it to Superintendent McIntyre.
Thank you, Chair DeShane. So tonight I'll be presenting on some items of interest of the board and our community regarding activities and events we're proud of in our district, and we do this to celebrate students and staff and community members who are contributing to the accomplishment of our mission, which is to effectively educate each of our students for success. Anoka-Hennepin magnet and specialty schools have provided high-quality learning options for students, and this year, 6 of those schools have earned national recognition from the Magnet Schools of America. First off, Hoover Elementary, a biomedical health sciences and engineering specialty school located in Coon Rapids, was one of 94 schools nationwide to be named a 2025 Top Magnet School of Excellence. Anoka Middle School for the Arts received the Magnet School of Excellence as well. Champlain Brooklyn Park Academy, University Avenue Elementary School, Monroe Elementary School, and Lincoln Elementary School for the Arts each earned Merit School of Distinction honors. Representatives from these schools will be recognized at future board meetings and in district publications, and the awards recognize the district's commitment to providing quality education choices for students and families. Moving on to our next one, Paraprofessional Recognition Week happening, and Anoka-Hennepin schools join districts from across the state in showing appreciation for our dedicated staff members who serve our students as paraeducators during Minnesota Paraprofessional Recognition Week. Paraeducators serve student needs for instruction, student activities, special education, individual student needs, health, safety, transportation, and many other various roles. Nearly all of our 1,000-plus paraeducators also live in our communities, so this is a true call for service for these dedicated community members. Paraprofessionals serve a vital role in ensuring the best possible educational experience for our students and helping provide the best possible schools for our community. So just a heartfelt thank you to all of our paraeducators this week and really every day of the school year for your service to our schools and our community and ultimately our students. Board members, as you know, we've been busy at the legislature, and there's lots of activity here in the last week. The school board and district leadership met with our area legislators on Wednesday, January 22nd, to share the district's legislative priorities in advance of the upcoming session. The district was also invited to share testimony with the Senate Education Policy Committee and the House Education Policy Committee that same day. Actually, we're back testifying again on Wednesday of this week. The district is fortunate to be served by the representatives who engage with the district and really lean into the legislative issues and value the perspectives of the district as they discuss the educational issues during a tough financial time that we're in. Anoka-Hennepin schools will celebrate academic growth in reading, math, and English language acquisition for over 3,000 students district-wide at recognition ceremonies in February. The top 10 achievers from each elementary school, middle school, and special education program will be recognized at the ceremonies. Certificates of accomplishment will be shared with all students who achieve the honor at their schools. The district will be live streaming the ceremony on the YouTube page and website, so please tune in if you can attend in person. And finally, I know work continues to happen in setting up for the Anoka-Hennepin Education Foundation as they're planning for the annual fundraising gala, the Northern Stars Celebration, which is set for Saturday, February 8th at Bunker Hills Event Center in Coon Rapids. Anyone interested should visit ahef.us or ahef.us for tickets and additional information. And I just need to point out how the district's grateful for the efforts of the Anoka-Hennepin Education Foundation and the many corporate and individual donors who support the learning needs of our students here in the district. This concludes my superintendent's report for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent McIntyre. Members, any questions? All right. Our next agenda item is finance, item 8A, the annual audit. We welcome Erin Nielsen, partner with MMKR. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening. As mentioned, my name is Erin Nielsen. I'm the independent auditor hired by the board to conduct this past year's audit for the year ended June 30th, 2024. You've received before you 3 reports: the annual comprehensive financial report, for which your district submits for 2 awards for the Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting. You also have received the special purpose reports and the management reports. So tonight we put together our PowerPoint presentation really from some slides that we've included within the management report. So nothing to surprise the board members with tonight, but just to facilitate our presentation. So with that, I'll make my way through that document or our presentation, and if there's any questions at the end, I'd be happy to try to answer them. So with that, we'll get right to it. The audit results for this past year on the district financial audit, or that ACFR. We've issued what is known as an unmodified or a clean opinion on the basic financial statements. So meaning those financial statements are fairly stated as of June 30th, 2024, and the results of operation for the year then ended are fairly stated. We noted just the change this past year, so we're continually implementing new GASB standards and guidance. This past year there was a new standard that impacted capital assets, and when you purchase significant amounts of smaller items, computers and furniture tend to be what we're running into at our school districts, to be capitalized as a group, where individually one of them would not meet your threshold. But your district successfully implemented that standard again this year, with the requirement this year. Internal control and compliance over the financial audit, that's our report on government auditing standards. In Minnesota, you're required to have your audit conducted in accordance with government auditing standards, and is also a requirement of your federal single audit or audit act to be tested. So you receive well in excess of the $750,000 threshold of federal awards requiring that extra audit, but that must be conducted in accordance with the Yellow Book or government auditing standards. And we're pleased to report, as you can see, we had no material weaknesses or instances of non-compliance with this past year's audit and our testing with regard to that. A couple of other broad areas, so the Minnesota Legal Compliance Guide or the Office of the State Auditor's Legal Compliance Guide, there are 7 broad categories: bid laws, claims and disbursements, conflicts of interest, many areas to be tested. And then within each one of those areas, several questions that we're following up on and testing. And we're pleased to report we had no instances of non-compliance to report with regard to all of that testing. And then the last area, which I mentioned a little bit, was the single audit of federal awards. So your federal awards get a separate additional audit if you're over that threshold. And we've issued what is known as a clean opinion on your CFA, or the Schedule of Expenditures of Federal Awards. With regard to the compliance and internal controls, again, we were pleased to report we had no material weaknesses or instances of non-compliance required to be reported to you for this evening. So very good results, exactly what you're looking for with regard to that testing and completion of the audit results. As I make my way through the rest of the slides, it's really some information that we've consolidated or pulled together from over the years of your financial statements, and simply information we pulled from those documents. So a key factor in funding education in Minnesota is the number of students you're serving, and we include the adjusted ADM, or that adjusted average daily membership, within the presentation here this evening. This past year, you served approximately 37,536 students as measured under an ADM basis. That represented a decrease of about 205 ADM, or about 0.5% compared to the prior year. On the next slide we have here for the general fund financial position, we've included some key components when we look at the financial position of the districts when we're working with them. The unrestricted fund balance, so I'll get into a little bit more detail on the next slide with total fund balance, but this is the unrestricted component of fund balance. Cash and investments, and then expenditures that are often used as a measure of the size of the operation. So as you can see, as your size has grown, the district has continued to maintain a stable financial position for each of the years as presented here. This slide is our attempt to show you a breakdown of a further deeper dive into the fund balance, or the equity of your general fund. So the general fund this past year, you can see a comparison from 23 to 24. The total fund balance, while it did increase, our percentages are calculated on the total expenditures for this past year. So as that expenditures have grown, there was a slight decrease in the percent of each of those components. So when we look at the various components of fund balance, you can see we've got non-spendable. That's largely made up of, or in your case entirely, inventory and prepaids that were purchased before the end of the year. So they're really identified for that purpose that they were purchased for. Restricted fund balance, you can see there was an increase in that category of equity or fund balance this past year. And those are largely dollars primarily restricted by state requirements that you receive the funding for them. Operating capital is an example, long-term facilities maintenance, basic skills. This past year, that increase was largely in basic skills funding, and I had also noted capital projects levy for this past year. You saw an increase in those two categories as key changes from the prior year. Then everything else will fall to an unrestricted category of fund balance. However, within that, then we've separated them between assigned and unassigned. And the assigned fund balance then represents resources for which the board or an individual the board has delegated the authority to have set aside those dollars for a particular purpose. Another example of an assignment of fund balance is when you're adopting your annual budget. Right now, you're halfway through your next fiscal year, and as we close the books after the fiscal year, we knew you had adopted a budget where you're deficit spending. So one of those assignments is a deficit to cover that deficit for subsequent year's budget. So knowing that if it were all the fund balance, you've already really set aside some to balance the budget this next fiscal year. And then after that, everything falls to that unassigned fund balance. So I know one of the key policies for the school board and the organization is maintaining that fund balance goal. And the goal has been to maintain or strive to maintain a 10% unassigned fund balance. So one clarification I want to make here is you did continue to meet that goal. Your policy reads that it's 10% of your operating budget expenditures. So our table here we include in our management reports is to be consistent with all the districts we audit, so we're using total expenditures. When we measured your unassigned fund balance as a percentage of operating expenditures, so we're backing off some of those restricted expenditures, what I just mentioned for operating capital, long-term facility spendings that will range up and down depending on the number of projects. You did again meet that 10% goal that you have in place for your organization. I have a couple more slides for the general fund. So the general fund revenues this past year, you can see we have a comparison of budget to actual to prior year. Just to share for the audience at large, the total revenues for the organization of Anoka-Hennepin schools in total amounted to $652.1 million for your general fund this past year. That actual amount was 2% better or over the amount anticipated in that final budget. So coming in within 2% of what was anticipated when that budget was approved, that amended budget, and then about 12.1% over the prior year. So as you can see by the graph, you can see very minimal changes in the budget to actual variances there. The changes from the prior year, you can see a little more significant or dramatic change from state sources when you look at the prior year column to the current year column. And that was largely due to some funding improvements in the basic formula allowance. Special ed saw some significant increases to help provide funding for that cross subsidy of general fund resources this past year. And then there were some new categorical grant funding for new programs that were approved to provide additional funds for school districts this past year. The last comment I generally make when we look at this graph and is consistent with other districts we work with as well is the concentration and where you're reliant on the state of Minnesota for a majority of your dollars to educate students within the district. So for your district this past year, state sources amounted to 74.3%, and then followed by property taxes at 18%. And then the federal and other category following up with about 4.6% and 3.1%. That other category capturing investment earnings. So seeing an increase in that this past year with some improved investment earnings, which we haven't seen for many years, just the last couple with improved investment results. My last slide for the general fund, as you can see, is similar to the revenues. We've broken it down by the object categories, the salary, benefit, purchase services. When you look inside of your Act for document on the income statement for the general fund, we break it down by program category. So elementary and secondary regular instruction, special education, pupil support services, and so on. So a different look when you compare it at this presentation level. So for 2024, total expenditures of the general fund amounted to $644.2 million. And when I said you were close with revenues, you came closer with expenditures. So you were within 0.2 0.2% on overall expenditures compared to budget. So coming in slightly under budget. So as a conservative auditor, we like to see our revenues come in over budget, our expenses held within what was approved by the board and the appropriations you've allotted for your educational expenditures and other general fund needs this past year. When we compared to prior year, that was about 7.1% over the amount spent in the prior year for the district's general funds. So the other comment we'd share, and you're similar to other districts, and salaries, employee benefits really driving the spending within the general fund as anticipated to educate students in our state and within the general fund. Really that driving factor in the budget variance as well in the change. 78.3% of your salaries and benefits is the general fund expenditures. Came in about 7.6%. Over the prior year and about 8% under the anticipated the budget. So similar results of what we expected and we talked about in total there. So that wraps up my discussion of the general fund. It is the primary operating fund, so we do spend the majority of our presentation with that. As you can see, as we discuss the accuracy of the budget versus actual for both the revenues and expenditures are key components that we look for when we're completing our annual audit and making our inquiries. So hopefully that is providing you comfort in the information you're getting on a day-to-day basis or on a monthly basis to the school board for the financial information you're receiving. Moving on to, I'll make a couple of comments here on some of the other funds of the organization and then wrap it up in total. The other governmental or operating funds we focus in on, the food service, your community service, special revenue funds. Both of these funds saw an increase in their year-end equity balance or fund balance at year-end. The comparison of size when we were talking about $644 million for your general fund, each one of these funds had about 28.6 and then $28.7 million of activity. So we stick to just showing you the fund balance component for our presentation this evening. The next slide, I'll comment on a couple other funds that we don't have. You also have a capital project fund where you had your bond proceeds that were approved by taxpayers of the district. You're nearing the end of the resources that were available from that issuance. I think you were down to about the last $3.8 million, but that fund operated as anticipated this past year. Similar with your debt service fund. To pay the debt service payments, you levy your property taxes and receive the related aid components there. That fund operated as anticipated as well. But both of those funds, the equity find in those are restricted for their respective purposes, for capital purposes as well as debt service funding. The internal service fund slide I have before you really is to share the district's operation of self-insured activities for your self-insured dental, self-insured health, and then the self-insured workers' compensation plans that you have. As you can see, you're similar to other organizations we are running into with rising claims costs. You have been managing your rates and have implemented increases, as you can see. And even with the improvement in investment earnings, specifically the last couple of years, it hasn't been enough to really get over that hump of the deficit spending of the net position in each of the past 3 years that you've seen here. So we just encourage you to continue to monitor that, but I know in speaking with your management, they're well aware of the trends that you've been incurring. And then my last slide to wrap up. To this point, we've been talking about the individual funds, which is how we believe that you're operating the district on a day-to-day basis with the budget process, looking at the individual funds. However, the look you get with those funds is when on a current short-term resources focus, so it doesn't encapsulate and capture all of the long-term assets, long-term obligations of the organization. That focus within the general fund, for instance, is to find out how many spendable resources you have that you can utilize to put to work for educating your students and other needs that you have within the general fund and goals. The entity-wide statements allow us to do just that, to capture the long-term capital assets, the long-term obligations. So what we've done is then consolidate all of the funds of the organization. You can see the top line there, total fund balance is the governmental funds. So what we talked about with the individual funds, an overall increase of about $7.4 million this past year. Taking it down to the total net position increase, that amounted to about $31.3 million of an increase. So on a short-term perspective, you saw an increase in your equity position. On a long-term basis, you also saw an improvement on that entity-wide basis. However, one thing I do like to point out is you can see a significant portion of that increase is in that net investment in capital assets. So while it's nice to see an increase there, it is tied up and locked up in your infrastructure assets. So you're purchasing capital assets, you're paying down debt at a faster pace than you're depreciating the buildings. So that's what we would anticipate. Usually you're paying your bonds off in a 20-year period. Your buildings will last well beyond that time frame, so you depreciate them over the useful life. So you see an improvement in equity, but it's not readily available to be spent on programs. The restricted is for the increases we talked about in long-term facilities maintenance, operating capital, other areas that we talked about, basic skills. And then everything else falls to that unrestricted category. So the change in unrestricted fund balance of the general fund, rolling in the internal service funds, and then the changes in pension and OPEB obligations come into play there. So with that, I know I went through a lot of information. Your financial statement is a heavy document that carries a lot of information as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions for our auditor? Director Hoekman.
I have just one question. I'm looking at slide 4, I believe, and it says, it's the slide that has general fund expenditures, and I see purchased services. Could you just tell me what purchased services are? Or what
Sure.
things fall in that category?
So that can be supply. Purchase services can be outsourcing of transportation costs when you have to buy your transportation costs, professional services, and other components like that that you have to hire. So supplies and materials are pretty straightforward. It's kind of a catch-all for the professional services and, as I said, like contracted services as well.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? Superintendent McIntyre.
I just want to say thank you. The auditors are with us for days and weeks and really go through everything in detail, as you can imagine. And with our wrestling with the budget, the variables that keep moving, right? Whether it's enrollment or the funding we get from the state, the contract settlements, the mandates, all those things that we know are behind all this. I want to give a shout out to our financial team. I hope the community and I know the board knows this as well and sees it, but to not have any findings as we're going through some really challenging financial times means our accounting is really tight, which I hope gives you as a board and our community members confidence that as we work through challenging times, you're getting accurate information, and that the audit really confirms that you can trust that information as we make some really tough decisions as we move through the challenges we're facing. So it's just an important point to point out, whether it's general fund, whether it's our dental and health costs, whether it's our food service, our community service, or even transportation. It's a wide-ranging, lots to manage for Michelle Vargas and our great team to do all that. And thank you for the reports. It really confirms that we're accurate with our reporting and our accounting of our resources, and I hope that gives taxpayers confidence in our work. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Superintendent McIntyre. Director Langenfeld.
Would you recommend if someone is watching this from home and has a question, who would they direct it toward?
They can just, anyone I would say. Usually we say our communications department, but if they find any one of us, we will get it to the right, to the finance department and make sure we get a response back to that. Because, we're wrestling with some hard things here, right? So usually our communications page has different ways to reach out to, whether it's the board or just directly to our team.
Yeah, Superintendent McIntyre, you picked up on the piece that I wrote down as a part of the presentation and that I just wanted to reiterate as well for the community listening. This external audit that's hired out, not a part of our district, but coming in, spending weeks looking at policies, procedures, internal control systems to make sure that all of this data is accurate, really does provide comfort over the validity of our financial reporting that's received throughout the year, and it is used every day by us to help make decisions, to guide decisions that we're making. So thank you for that, and thank you to our wonderful finance department for their hard work all year to get us these clean audit results.
Thank you.
Take care. All right, members, we are nearing our last board agenda item. Board correspondence and communication is next. This is our opportunity to share happenings in our communities, report on committee assignments, or any other items of interest. Does anyone have anything that they would like to share? I do, so I'll just go. Oh, okay. Go ahead, Director Langfeld.
Thank you. I'd just like to give folks a little bit of an update in terms of the Minnesota School Board Association work that's underway. Recently, we had the leadership conference, and as the district director serving for Centennial, St. Francis, Fridley, Columbia Heights, Spring Lake Park, and Anoka-Hennepin, we had a district director meeting as well during the conference, and I'd like to share a few insights and updates for everyone just to make sure everybody's on the same page. We're looking forward on March 10th to do our day at the Capitol with MSBA and also the Minnesota Association of School Administrators. It's a great day to be there collectively as a team. I'm hoping people can join us down there. What I like is how they're setting it up this year, and I know we talked a little bit about it at our legislative evening, but the fact that the morning will be dedicated to hearing from speakers, meeting at the Radisson, and having conversations, networking, learning with and from each other, and having Minnesota education policy folks come and finance folks speak with us. The afternoon will be all scheduled appointments, so if people have work schedules that maybe they could work around, it would be really great, I think, to, especially to be there for your meeting with your constituent legislators as well. So, and I know one of our senators already offered their office that we could throw all our stuff in if we get down there as well. So that's coming up on March 10th. Also, just to remind everyone, the Friday chat room, MSBA Friday chat room is available to all members to catch up on what's going on each week at the legislature. Things move quickly, and former school board member from Anoka-Hennepin, Denise Dietrich, is now the government relations person running that effort. In between, she also served in the House of Representatives, so she brings very clear, straightforward information for us, and if you miss it, it is recorded. It's Friday mornings from 9 to 9:30. It moves very quickly, but it also, for those who may not be able to join at 9 o'clock, you can certainly listen to it at a later time. Finally, I just wanted to highlight one more thing. During our meetings with the district directors at the state convention, I was afforded the opportunity in the room, co-chair DeShane joined, as well as Superintendent McIntyre and other board members from the districts I referenced earlier, to share insights and their wisdom, success, and challenges, and leaned into many of the same issues that we are challenged with in terms of mandates and so forth. And there was also a really good discussions that began in the room to talk about the work of the school boards and how we sometimes think we are unique, and we find ourselves that not everybody has universal thinking around issues, and just leaning into how other school districts are working together collaboratively to ensure that students have what they need, and our focus is really wanting the best for students, and I believe that we are there. But it was very interesting to have that conversation, and also then to carry that later. There were a number of work sessions, and I know Co-Chair DeShane and I attended one that was really focused on a workshop breakout session focused on superintendent and board relations, and how the story was very interesting in that it was a person who had run for the school board and how that particular team built trust together over time. And it was really a heartfelt story that some of us could possibly remember and relate to. It would happen, began in COVID, and then the board member then decided to run because she didn't agree with what was going on in the district, and they eventually came to shared values, really focused in on the love for the students in the school district and how they could work together. As we think about going forward, as noted at the last meeting, we are the guardians of the public trust, and I know one of our speakers tonight really talked about let's work together. I thought that was a really critically important point. One of the priorities for the Minnesota School Board Association this year is to speak in a unifying voice for public education. So as we think about and celebrate school board recognition, and that's come up a couple times, to speak in one voice is so vitally important. And there is a video out that is made by students from across the state speaking about how school boards impact their lives. And if you've not seen it, I encourage you to take a look at it. It's very uplifting. It's powerful from the perspective when we hear from students. It's very heartening and it's very real. And so it really puts the reason why we do what we do around that responsibility, but also brings in that value of community. So if you've not seen that, I invite you to look at that and also recognize, and I just took the statement off the website that MSBA is posted that talks about helping our communities better understand and trust and value the power and potential of public education systems, really bringing that benefit together. Regardless of where we all come from and our varied beliefs, I'm proud of the fact that we as a board have come together to recognize that we are supportive of every child we have the privilege to serve, that we work hard to get the trust of our community, and most importantly, recognize that we serve as the front line of our public schools in our community, and we all want and share the best for every single child that we serve. So that's what I have to share. Let's speak with one voice.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything they'd like to share? Or I'll go quickly. I had the opportunity to attend our district's STEM fair this weekend and saw over 200 middle and high school students' presentations who these students were eager to share their hypothesis, their ideas and tests, the observations that they had, and then the conclusions that they reached. It was really exciting to see the energy in the room at 7 o'clock in the morning when they were getting all set up and arranging their displays for the public to walk through and view. So encourage everyone next year, if you're able to get out there and see these presentations. They've got some great ideas that they're trying to figure out and wrestle with using the tools of science. And lastly, I just want to give a shout out and a story again about the power of our students and just how inspiring they can be. The Champlain Park girls basketball team had a youth night where they invited all the youth basketball players to come to the game. At that game, the pep band was there, and there was a large student section, mostly freshman boys, and there were one or two that you could see near the beginning of the game come up, gather their friends. They got everybody standing together in a section, starting cheers, and just that power of positivity and being an encouraging voice really brought such a great energy to the game. They won in overtime by 1 point, so it was just an exciting finish. But I'm just so grateful for our students showing that type of leadership and really showing us that it just, it only takes a few to do the right thing and do something exciting to make a great moment. So thank you to them. That is it from me. All right, our last agenda item is to adjourn. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Co-Chair Arco. Do we have a second? Thank you, Director Langenfeld. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. With 4 in favor and 0 opposed, we are adjourned at 7:33. Thank you.